Hey yo, what's going on YouTube? I'm back with another video here. I apologize for not posting for some sort of long amount of time, but I was kind of busy. But anyways, today's conversation is going to be about atheism. Most importantly, the paradox of disbelief. How the children of Israel changed and developed into the modern atheism and the struggle with the unseen. Now, before I begin, I will give a brief overview of what exactly I am trying to talk about. Now, today's topic is explicitly going to be talking about the major reason or one of the major ideologies within atheism, within atheists, that allow them to be disbelievers, that allow them to not believe in the existence of a Lord. Now, obviously, we discussed this in the last video. We talked about how some of those reasons could be due to the suffering of animals, could be due to the concept of an all-loving God and the misconception of an all-loving God. And we also discussed how atheists do not understand the concept of equilibrium within God's mercy, because obviously God cannot just be merciful in itself. He must be vengeful. He must be providing revenge for those that have been acted on with injustice. So atheists had a very big problem in understanding that. They wanted, or they previewed God to having a fully positive, or not positive, rather fully encumbered in mercy only. They don't understand that God also needs to show his wrath. He needs to show these various types of attributes towards the non-believers, towards those people spreading transgression. Now, with this video, I'm going to be more going into depth within the children of Israel and talking about a very important point on their ideology concerning the existence of a creator. Now, I'm going to start about talking explicitly about Moses and the children of Israel in Egypt. Now, obviously, before we go into depth, we must go and talk about the fundamentals of history. We must look at who the children of Israel are, how they escaped from Egypt, and what was actually going on. So, as an introduction, God spoke to Moses and revealed to him that, "Oh, Moses, you must go to the land of Egypt. You must go to Egypt because there is a transgressor, because there is a corrupter called Pharaoh." Now, this is actually going to present an extremely good debate, kind of a debatable topic about who Pharaoh actually is, because in the Quran, he was only mentioned as Pharaoh, right? That's his name. That's what his name was. However, some historians, some Christian theologists, some Islamic theologists, they believe that this Pharaoh is actually Ramses II. Most of them believe and concluded that this Pharaoh, during the time of Moses and through historical transmissions and understanding of history and the timeline of Prophet Moses, they believed and they deduced that, yes, this is actually Ramses II. However, that's a whole other topic that we're not going to talk about right now. So anyways, let's continue. Now, God told Moses that, "Oh, Moses, you have to go to Egypt because there is a tyrant there. There is a man who is murdering children. There is a man who is oppressing mothers and not allowing them to have babies. You, Moses, must go there and you must stop these tyrants from transgressing." However, an initial problem with Moses, according to the history of the Quran, is that he had a problem with speaking. This is even known in Christian theology. Now, the reason why this happened is because when Moses was a baby, when he was an infant, and God told his mother to throw him in the river, the wife of Pharaoh, whose name is Asya, she found Moses in the river. After she found him in the river, she took him back to Pharaoh, and she told him that this baby, we must keep him rather than to just throw him and kill him. They just loved him. Obviously, that was a divine sense of the Lord putting the love within them to keep that baby rather than kill it. However, Pharaoh realized that Moses, as a baby, as an infant, was way too strong. He was way too powerful. And this is one of the major attributes of Moses, by the way. He is known to being extremely strong. He is known to being a strong man, which is why, if you all remember, when he accidentally pushed that man, he had to leave Egypt for 40 years in the desert. He had to leave for that a long amount of time, all because of the fact that he just pushed him and he died instantly. So that really shows how strong Moses actually was. Anyways, Moses took, through historical transmissions in history, it says that Moses took the beard, he pulled the beard of Pharaoh, and he saw that he pulled him extremely strongly, like heavily. He took his beard and he smushed it. And Pharaoh was like, wait, hold on, what's going on? This cannot be a baby. How did he develop all of that energy and strength to pull my beard this way? So he was saying that no, we have to kill this baby. We must do this right now. So what that happened is with that initial idea, they knew that, okay, something is not right. There's no way this is an actual baby. He might be one of those prophets. We must kill him. He started doubting himself. So that's why Asya came, his wife, and she said, okay, fine. If you think that he's a baby, let's introduce to him two different things. One, an apple, and then two, a burning coal, a coal that's burning. So when they brought to him those two different choices, this is, by the way, through historical transmissions. When they brought to him these two choices, the apple and the burning coal, he chose the burning coal and he ate it. Now, obviously, what that did was that it burnt his tongue. That explains why Moses had this certain type of difficulty in speaking. He had this certain type of difficulty in pronouncing these few words, which is why he told his Lord, he responded, he said, Lord, I understand, but you know me, I cannot talk the way how you want me to talk, and they might make fun of me. They might deny me. They might call me a liar. They might say that I am not even a prophet. That is why, as mercy from God, he told him to take Aaron with him as a brother, and he made his brother also a prophet, Prophet Aaron, or in Arabic, Harun. That's what his name was. Anyways, God taught him this specific supplication to say so that he is able to withstand that disability of pronouncing some type of words. I'm going to say it in Arabic first, and then I'm going to translate it. He told him to say, رَبِّ اشْرَحْ لِي صَدْرِي وَيَسِّرْ لِي أَمْرِي وَاحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِسَانِي يَفْقَهُ قَوْلِي. This means, O Lord, make my path easy, and grant me the ability to do this successfully, and make other people understand the faulty of my speech. This basically means that he was asking God for divine. He's basically asking the Lord for a divine entity to help him. Now, in Islam, obviously, we do not believe in the Trinity. We do not believe that monotheism could be possible with three distinct characteristics, three distinct things, right? We do not believe that God can be consistent of the Holy Spirit and the Father and then the Son in flesh and form, and then we created men in our image, etc. We do not believe in that triosome and say that, okay, those three can also be God. We don't believe in that. However, think about this supplication is basically going to act like the Holy Spirit. Is going to act like something that in Arabic is called tawfiq. Tawfiq is basically the divine ability by God to make things go towards your way, to go towards your method, to make you successful in your planning. That's basically what's going on here. Anyways, now that Moses said this supplication, and he's now in Egypt, he finally reached there to go against this tyrant, to go against Pharaoh, or so-called seemingly Ramses II. Now, obviously, the main mission, the main agenda of Moses being there is to save the children of Israel. He wants to get them out of there because of this tyrant. He wants to save them by God's name, by God's mission, by God's command. Now, obviously, he first, before he left Egypt, he gave Ramses II, or Pharaoh, a lot of chances. And we can tell this by the verses of the Quran. In the following, in chapter 7, verses 133, it says, "So we plagued with them floods, locusts, lice, frogs, and blood, all as clear signs, but they persisted in arrogance and were wicked people." What does this mean? This means that yes, even though despite of the fact that those are extreme punishments and it's not easy to deal with, like making the river turn into blood, they couldn't drink water, the frogs creating the inability to sleep, the constant sounds of the frog, the lice eating their hair, the locusts going everywhere all around them, creating fear, and then the floods, etc., etc. All of these were various punishments, not sent by one time, however, sent over a long period of time, which was a sign for those people to believe that this is a sign from the Lord. This is a chance for you to ask for forgiveness. This is a sign for you, O Pharaoh, to stop being a tyrant. Obviously, they didn't listen. Now, this is where the most important part comes. One of the most important part that comes and explains this modern atheism problem is the inability to understand the unseen. It's the inability to not comprehend what is out of this world, what is out of the ability to see with the physical eye, with the retina. A great example of this is that when we're looking at various types of matters, right? We have, everyone who studied physics, you'd know this. You have solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. Some debate that plasma are part of the phases of matter, but anyways, that's not a discussion we're going to talk about right now. But anyways, continuing on, physics explains to us that everything vibrates. The laws of vibration and frequency. We understand that everything around us vibrates. Now, despite of the fact that I'm looking at this water bottle right now, I'm looking at my monitor, I'm looking at my microphone, they all look extremely still to me. They don't look like they're moving objects. However, the laws of vibration and frequency, it explains that yes, this object in front of you does look physical. It does look solid. It does look like it is static. It is not moving. However, it is actually dynamically moving without you being able to see it. Why? Because the frequency and the vibration are extremely low. Your retina is not able to withstand and comprehend how slow this object is vibrating, which is why you cannot see it. Vice versa, if you're looking at an object, a being, an entity that is vibrating too fast, your retina cannot reflect light from it, so you cannot see through your pupils. You cannot see what is going on because they are vibrating way too fast for your eyes to even witness, to preserve. Take an example of angels or jinn. Jinn, we call jinn in Islam. Basically, they're like ghosts or the jinn. Most people don't believe in them, right? But it's actually a requirement to believe in Islam. Anyways, jinn, angels. When you're looking at these entities, these beings, we cannot see them because of two reasons. Reason number one is that they live within the gas realm. Reason number two, not only because they live within the gas realm, they also vibrate extremely fast. When something is vibrating too fast, light cannot emit from them. Rather than your eyes is not able to reflect that high amount of light. And it's so high and vibrating so fast that you cannot see it anymore. Now, for those Avengers comic book fans, if you want to understand this more, If you look at The Flash, the TV series The Flash, they showed one of the things that the Flash was able to do is that he was able to phase through buildings. The reason why he was able to do that is because he was vibrating so fast. That vibration, him being able to vibrate so fast, made him go through the building. That's how fast he was. He wasn't, you couldn't even see him. All you could see is just the light, the flash, the lightning that's going behind him. That is how fast these angels are. They're vibrating so fast. They have a high vibrational frequency that you cannot see them anymore. You cannot preserve them. That is one of the concepts that atheists today have a problem with. They do not understand the fact that I cannot see this. I cannot see God, so I cannot believe in God. That is one of the reasons. Anyways, continuing on with the research. Now let's look at this. Let's look at this Quranic verse. It says, "And we revealed to Moses, throw your staff, and suddenly it devoured what they were falsifying." Now, what does this mean? We all know the story of the staff and Pharaoh's appointments to bringing those magicians to go against Moses. Now, obviously, we all know about this story, so I'm not going to go and repeat it, but I will give an extremely important comment here. The reason why in the Quran these magicians that brought from Pharaoh, they disobeyed Pharaoh and they actually worshipped God, Allah, the one and only God. They worshipped him and they bowed down and they said, yes, truly the God of Moses is the real God. The reason why they did that is because you have to know, during ancient Mesopotamia, explicitly ancient Babylon, ancient Babel, the existence of magic, black magic, it was really known, right? It was known what's possible to do with magic. However, when they saw what Moses did, they knew that, okay, this wasn't actually an illusion. Rather, it was a divine message. It was divine energy by God to make that possible. To make a stick go into a python, to be developed within a python, and to eat and consume the other two staffs that they had. They knew that what they're doing is an illusion trick. It was an elusive trick. They made something possible because of an illusion, because of hallucination. They tricked everyone. However, they knew, okay, wait, this wasn't a trick. This was by divine nature. God made this possible. That means truly he is a prophet. How else would he do this? That is why they believed in him. Another point going by is within the splitting of the Red Sea. It says, so we, in chapter 26, verse 63 in the Quran, it says, so we inspired Moses, strike the sea with your staff, and the sea was split. Each part was like a huge mountain. Now, when I got to this point, there's two different questions I want to have. Not two different questions, rather two different distinct points that I want to talk about. Two distinct miracles, despite of the Red Sea departing with two parts like a huge mountain. So yes, we're talking about two different mountains here. We're talking about extremely high levels of height of water. We're talking about like a tsunami type of level, more than 30 meters high. Anyways, sorry, not meters, 30 feet high. Anyways, continuing on, these are the 2 points that I want to talk about. First of all, one of the miracles of the splitting of the Red Sea is not only the spreading of the Red Sea, rather the ground beneath the sea becoming dry. Now, God didn't only part the Red Sea, rather he transformed the sebbed from mud to unstable terrain into the firm, meaning that the ground, the terrain was unstable, right? God made that ground to become arid. He made it to become solid so that they can travel there safely and not drown, basically. You know what I'm saying? No, we don't want to drown them. Obviously, that is one of the reasons why he departed the Red Sea, so that he doesn't want them to drown, right? So that is why God made the ground arid. That's one. The ground was arid. They were able to walk. They were able to go through safely. Another very interesting topic is this: how did they pass the Red Sea? You have to think about this. If it was to, because look, the Quran described the water as like great mountains, right? He described it as, God described it as great mountains, meaning they're extremely high. This also implies the path had steep walls and elevation, right? Yet the Israelites, they were still able to descend, travel across, and ascend while carrying their belongings at the same time. This itself indicates a whole other divine facilitation. Now, why do I say this right now? For those who didn't get it yet, really simply speaking, the water was obviously deep. We're talking about the Red Sea here. We're not talking about something that's a normal river. We're talking about the Red Sea. It is extremely deep. How are they able to go through that parabolic trajectile orientation of the water, going all the way down in depth and then going all the way up again? Think of it like a parabola, right? It's like a parabolic function. How are they able to go down and all the way up again? That steep, and then going up like climbing a mountain and carrying their luggage. How are they able to do that? The answer to that question is that it is an anomaly, meaning that God had to do something to defy physics. He did something that goes against physics, that makes them able to do that made them able to pass the sea without basically falling down, right? Because it's basically like a hill. You're climbing up a hill. That is not easy at all. Anyways, now what is the point of all of this, right? Now, obviously, this isn't just solely based on the children of Israel. This whole story that I'm talking about, this whole video, isn't just solely based on the historical transmissions and the historical timeline of the ancient Egyptians, of the children of Israel explicitly. This is to show you that despite of the fact that everything they have seen, the splitting of the Red Sea, the river turning into blood, the locusts, the frogs, etc., after everything they have seen, they still found a way to not believe in Moses. They didn't believe in Moses' God. They did not believe in the omniscient. They did not believe in the omnipotent. They thought that he was still not lying, rather that they just didn't believe in him, right? By the way, they had more complaints than that. It wasn't just this. It wasn't just this that they didn't believe in. Let's go look at chapter 2, verse 60 in the Quran. It says, "And remember when Moses prayed for water for his people. We said, strike the rock with your staff. Then 12 springs gushed out, and each tribe knew its drinking place. We then said, eat and drink of Allah's provision, and do not go about spreading corruption in the land." Now, what's going on in this verse? It's really simple. What's going on is that after a long time of traveling in the desert with Moses, they asked Moses to ask and pray to God to bring down water for them because they're in the desert. Moses said, all right, fine. Then he did it, right? Just like I just read in this verse. He struck his rock. He struck his staff within a rock, and then it became it developed into 12 springs, which gushed out for each single tribe of them to drink from. Because you have to remember this, they weren't even connected with one another. That's how cooked, like the Gen Z would say, that's how cooked they are, right? They didn't even believe. They weren't even together in the first place, even though they seem like they're all together with an objective saying of the children of Israel, plural form. They still had different tribes. Based on the Quran, we can see then 12 springs gushed out, and each tribe knew its drinking place. So they weren't even connected in the first place. That's how lost or astray they actually were. And then if we go look at another verse, in chapter 2, verse 57, "And remember when we shaded you with clouds and sent down to you manna and quails." Manna is basically, it's actually a biblical type of food as well. It's simply like a treat. It's called manna, and then el salwa, which was in Arabic, which is basically the quail. So they told God, this is two distinct things, by the way, they asked Moses to do again. One was that, oh Moses, it's extremely hot. We're in the desert. I know that you promised us this land in Palestine, but this is really hot. We need to be shaded. We need to go somewhere to be shaded. Ask your Lord to shade us. He asked his Lord again, and God shaded them with the clouds. They told Moses, oh Moses, we're hungry. We're out here for a very long time. Thank you for giving us the water, but we need to eat some food. Again, eat from the good things we have provided for you. The evildoers certainly did not wrong us, but wronged themselves. You get what I'm saying? That God gave them this food and sent down to you manna and quails. So he gave them the food. He gave them divine food by God from heaven and told them to consume that food. After all of that they have seen, they still disbelieved. They still didn't believe in Moses. Let's continue to the last verse that I have here, and then we're going to continuously explain this concept even further. In chapter 2, verse 51, it says, "And remember when we appointed 40 nights for Moses, then you worshipped the calf in his absence, acting wrongfully." To give a brief overview of what I just read here in this verse, God appointed Moses to talk to him. He had an appointment with him. He's actually he is the only prophet who directly talked to God, which is why in Arabic he is called Kalimullah. Kalimullah basically means the one who spoke to the Lord. Moses went to the mountain of Tur. That's what it's called. It's called Jabal al-Tur. I believe it is in Syria. Someone can go fact check and research it. However, when he went to meet God in his 40 days, in his 40 nights, a man called Al-Samiri came. He is called Al-Samiri. You can search him up. This man, Al-Samiri, what he did was he came and he tricked the children of Israel to give away their gold to create them a golden calf. Now, for the Christians viewers, those Christian viewers that I have, if you are a Christian and if you want to see this not only from the Quran but also from the Bible, you can go read the chapter Exodus. In Exodus, explicitly in Exodus, within the first few chapters, you're going to find out that this story exactly that I'm talking about is all there in Exodus. And the Quran and the Bible are not so different after all, if you actually do your research and read. If you go in Exodus, you will realize that this story is actually there, and then somebody came and he tricked them and he brought the gold, and then there was a gold calf and they worshipped the gold calf. The verse says, "And remember when we appointed 40 nights for Moses, then you worshipped the calf in his absence, acting wrongfully." After everything that you have seen, after all of the things that God has done for you, O children of Israel, after everything of the abilities that you have seen what Moses God can do, you go and you worship a cow. That is why after they did this, they were commanded by God that they must kill one another. Each person who worshiped that cow, they must start killing each other so that God can even have mercy on them. Now, obviously, there's a more deeper meaning with wisdom on why they had to kill one another that we do not have the knowledge of, because God is He has the highest of wisdom, so we don't know that reason explicitly on why killing one another would actually do the job of mercy. We don't have that knowledge. God is the one who said it. However, they had to do that because of this devious act, because of this unjustified act. It is extremely unjustifiable to make polytheists with the Lord, because after everything that He has done, after the fine-tuning of this universe, the perfection of this universe, you go and you worship a cow instead of the Lord. That is a very big sin. As a matter of fact, in Islam, it is the most major sin, because you are equating one with another. Think of this. You're creating an engineering project, right? For those engineering students that are listening, You're creating an engineering model design, let's just say a 3D design, right? Of maybe a telecommunication tower. You create this design, go through the debugging process. You have a problem, you go through this problem, you have been developing this for months and years. And after you're done, after you have cried, after you have gone through all of this mess and trials, someone else comes and says, you know what? That work was not yours. You have plagiarized this work, and this work is belonging to someone else, and there's no other exception. We're going to give this props to someone else. That is technically the same thing that you are doing with God if you are becoming a polytheist. After everything God that has created, this fine-tuned universe, the human body, the integration of body systems, your circular system working with your nervous system working with your respiratory system working with your digestive system, all of these various systems that are making us alive, that are making me talk, that is making my larynx and my voice box to even talk, and then the sound waves going to my microphone, you being able to hear this, coincidentally you listening to this video right now, all of this isn't just coincidence. Even though I just mentioned the word coincidence, it's all of this is coinciding with one thing, which is there is a creator, there is a plan, and there is a reason why you are here listening to this. So continuing on, after we have just seen all of these reasons, the story of the children of Israel, what happened with them, and how God promised them a land and showed them with their own eyes what he is capable of, they still said, O Moses, we will not believe in your Lord until we see him physically. Now the reason why this is, now let's see how all of this correlates to the modern world, because obviously the heading says the paradox of disbelief from the children of Israel to modern atheism and the struggle with the unseen. Now, how is this a struggle with the unseen, and how does this relate to modern atheism? One of the reasons why this relates to modern atheism is not only because atheists cannot see God. Some of them say, actually, that's not the sole reason. Why? Because that would also defy physics. That would also defy various amounts of theories and paradigms within our belief systems. Why? Because we believe in dark matter. Dark matter cannot be physically seen, and we can explain why we cannot see. We can explain the how, but the problem with atheists is the why. They can explain the how. They can explain the water, they can explain the circulatory system. They can explain the concept of existentialism within philosophy. Scientists, physicists, whatever it is, philosophers, all of them can explain the how, but without God, you cannot explain the why. Why were we here? One of the most evidences of what I'm saying here and how this is actually true is go look at the philosophers, go look at ancient history, go look at the historians and the philosophers within them. What was one of the biggest questions that philosophers have realized that is extremely important? They realized why is the most important question in life. Why are we here? Existentialism was the biggest philosophical question in history. Why are we here? Some pledged to religion, some pledged to a god, some pledged to a belief system, some were secular, some were non-secular. Bottom line is they realized that one of the most important things in life was asking the question, why? This is what the problem of many atheists that have today. And not only, wait, let me explain this in a better way, because this might sound confusing. Now, what I mean by this is that let's give a good example here, right? when we're talking about the fact that there's a God who created this universe, scientists, or more like atheists, they go against this point by trying to provide explanations to meet with their mind, right? They always want an explanation. And that is kind of a problem. Why is that a problem? Because not everything that God has done for us can be fully explained. Obviously, the splitting of the Red Sea is an anomaly. It defies physics, it defies gravitational force, it defies the ability of water to be cohesive and to be adherent to the ground. How is it that all of this water, all of these tons of thousands of tons of water was pulled up and consistently pulled up like two mountains? That ability of that happening, they cannot fathom that. They're not able to fathom the fact that how did this just happen? How is this even a possibility? The reason why they do not look outside of the box is actually consequently why they do not believe in a creator. This is the same exact problem the children of Israel had. They saw that Moses was able to ask God to bring down food. They saw that he was able to hit his staff and depart the Red Sea. He was able to hit his staff on a rock, and then develop into 12 different springs of water. They saw all of that, but guess what? They were too inclined on the physical finite world of explanation, and they didn't look at it in an external divine way. It is all about divinity. That is the biggest problem that atheists have today. It's all about divinity. They do not believe that, for example, when you're having intercourse with your wife, they don't believe that this is sacred exchange of energy. In Islam and Christianity and actual beliefs of a one and only Lord, we believe that this is you building a covenant with your wife. That act is not just through lust. It's not just considered as love. It is sacred exchange of energy. It is a covenant between you, your wife, then God. That is what it is. But if you tell that to an atheist, they say, okay, can you explain this? But this is where the paradox occurs, because my previous video proved that science and religion, science and God, are the ultimate paradox that interconnect with one another. Most people do not know that science and God interchangeably use one another to explain one another. Obviously, this isn't for all aspects in Islam and in the Bible and in the Quran and in Christianity. For example, one of the aspects this won't work in, obviously, is when through an anomaly, through physics, through an anomaly such as the ability of a staff turning into a python and it ate the other staffs. That's obviously an anomaly. That's not possible. We cannot use this argument for this. However, what if we use this argument for the afterlife? If we look at, again, I love talking about physics because it's extremely important. Physics is life, biology is life. When we look at the conservation of energy, the law of conservation of energy states that energy is neither created nor destroyed, rather it is observed, meaning it goes somewhere else, it is transformed, it goes somewhere else. Energy is observed. When a person dies, we all know that we have vibrational frequency, right? Vibrational frequency is a type of matter. It is energy. It is kinetic energy that is within you. We are an electrical being, and that is a scientific fact. So when you die, you do not just decompose and you disappear. There is energy within you. That energy is observed. There is a soul within you that is going to be observed. God has a system. That is why when you lose this physical body, that energy that was once within you, that energy that was... Look, there's various types of energies, right? One time I presented this to a person and he said, okay, that's kind of true, but this doesn't also make sense, because when you're looking at your neural impulses, those The ability to have an actual, the ability to have an action potential is done. It is over. There's no stimulation within your neural pathways, within your presynaptic cleft, the postsynaptic cleft. There is no stimulation anymore. There is no electrical impulses within your brain, which is why you die. The heartbeat itself doesn't mean that you're alive, rather your neural impulses. If all of your neurons are dead, there is no connection within your body at all. That is electricity, by the way. And also you can find this electricity found in the heart, and the synaptic node and the SA nodes. The synaptic nodes also have electrical valves. But anyways, let's not get away from this topic. We are electrical beings through scientific history. I just brought in anyways, I just realized that I didn't respond anyways to what he said. So what I responded to him is that this is the physical presence of electricity within our brain, within our nervous system. However, this energy, despite of the fact that it being dead within you, does not mean that it's not observed externally through your soul. And that soul is what God goes through as a system, what he created as a system. Energy is observed. So after you die, you don't just disappear. That energy doesn't go just anywhere. Think of it like a plant. A plant dies, it decomposes. After it dies, and you bring the water back into it, an irrigative system, it comes back into life. After its death, it comes back into life again. That is the same concept of us humans. We come from clay, we return back to clay, and God reincarnates and brings us back into human mankind form. All of this is an example of how we use physics to explain the why. Now we can use the why in this example. However, in the other examples, most atheists cannot fathom. And there's a difference between an atheist and a disbeliever. A disbeliever is someone where the signs came to them, everything has come to them, and they have seen it with their own eyes, and they still disagreed. They still said, no, I will not believe. I do not know this. I do not believe in this. They acted ignorant. However, an atheist is just a person that is in a stray, a person whose this life has over-encumbered their afterlife. They have thought about this life way too much more than the afterlife because they never believed in the afterlife in the first place. Because of the fact that they cannot fathom the abilities of God, they cannot fathom, and by the way, everyone cannot fathom the ability of God. It's just that your ideology, that belief, that certainty of knowing that yes, after I die, there is a system, there is a book of deeds. Everything that I say and do is written by two angels. That belief, that certainty, that is what leads to heaven. That is what leads to a faithful, pious person, compared to an atheist who does not have the knowledge, who does not have the capability to think outside of this materialistic world. That is why any example you give them out of this materialistic world, they won't understand it. You tell them, would you rather have this $50 million? Would you rather have $50 million or disobey God? Obviously, a true pious believer is going to say, I would... Not that. That's a very bad example, because who the hell would do that? If you gave them an example of saying, would you rather take $50 million or would you rather have God be pleased with you? You get what I'm saying? Oh no, actually the original example was good. I just didn't realize it. Yes, if you tell them, would you rather I pay you this $50 million to disobey God, or you do nothing? Now, obviously, a true pious believer is going to do nothing rather than take that money, because if they do take that money, they have defied God. They have disobeyed God to an extreme level. They're basically saying, oh God, this money is higher in value than you being pleased with me, which is a very big sin. So someone can't just go ahead and do that and say, oh yeah, I'm just going to go and I'm going to ask for forgiveness. No, that person is going to get a lot of punishment for that, because that is not fair at all to do. Now, anyways, this example just shows that those atheists, they do not have this ability. They don't have the ability to understand outside of this materialistic world, which is the exact same problem the children of Israel had. So for this problem to be resolved, those atheists must come to an understanding that not everything within this world must be comprehended by mathematical constants. Not everything in this world can be calculated. There is finite and there is infinite. Our finite brain cannot fully comprehend the abilities and the attributes of God, which is why many people turn to disbelief. They say, oh wait, I don't have an explanation for this. That means it's false. That's it. It's a lie. That is what scientists do nowadays. At first, when Alexander Vilenkin, who was a cosmologist, realized that there was a beginning of the universe, when he introduced the fact that there is a beginning of the universe, what did scientists try to do? They couldn't understand that. They couldn't fathom that. Wait. How is it that the universe was first created? If it was first created, that means what created it is not matter, because matter cannot pre-exist within matter if it didn't even exist in the first place, right? Matter never even existed in the first place for it to produce and develop all of this entire universe. That means it was something external from matter itself. It is not matter. It is not any of those phases of matter. That means that thing or that energy, that entity had to be independent. Nothing created it. Nothing was before it. It created this as a whole by itself. And also, it is the omnipotence in the omniscient, meaning that it has all the knowledge of the world and it is peculiar from others. That is how you explain God. That is what God actually is. He was here before all of this. And atheist scientists tried to run away and try to make a falsified theory of the Big Bang, which cannot even be seemingly possible. You cannot come and say a random star exploded and then all of this came to true. That would define physics. That would define astrophysics explicitly. That is not even a possibility. Within the creation of the universe, God was the one who came into play. He was the one who put all this power, all this strength, all this knowledge into this fine-tuned universe. Everything perfectly working with one another. The position, the orientation of the sun, the gravitational force being perfectly strong enough to make everything possible. This is what defies those atheists. This is what the paradox of the disbelief is, from the children of Israel to the modern atheism. And this is how the atheists had a struggle with the unseen. I hope this video made someone think about the belief of Islam, the belief of the one and only creator. And I hope you understand how it is extremely important that if you want to make it to heaven, if you want to be closer to God, you have to start thinking outside of this materialistic world. What does this mean? One last very example before I end this. A person who's going through lust, for example, right? A very good example is Prophet Yusuf. May peace be upon him. When Prophet Yusuf was tested with his desires, with the queen of Egypt, Zuleika, that was her name, was Zuleika. She was in the room with him. She invited him. She told him to come. When he was there, she told him to come near him to have a physical, sexual, intimate act with him. However, what did he say? He said, Ma'adullah in Arabic. This means that, oh Allah, I seek refuge in you to withstand against this, and that, oh Lord, you have something prepared for me that is better than this. Now, why is this so important? If you want to make it to heaven, this is how you want to think. This is how you're supposed to think. You're supposed to think that, oh, if I want to make it to heaven, I must start thinking outside of this materialistic world. I must fear God justifiably. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatih. O those who have believed, fear God in a justful manner. Fearing God in a justful manner is extremely important. Doing that is being able to think outside of the materialistic world. Next time you're going to do something, you're going to do an act, you're going to make a decision, always think, is this pleasing myself only? Is this going to please God? The place that I am in, if I die right now, is that going to please God? For those people that are always talking with a woman that they're not married with, their boyfriend, girlfriends, whatever it is, or those who are practicing hookup culture, think about yourself. What am I doing right now? Can I wait? Can I be patient and know that God has something better for me? If you believe that, you will be greater than an angel, because angels do not have free will. Everything that they do is by God's will. Everything that they do is controlled by God. They don't have free will. We have free will. So if you got the strength to say that, oh, God has something planned for me, he has something better for me, if you do that, then you, my friend, is going to be greater than an angel in God's eyes, and you will 100% make it to heaven. And this is where I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this, if you have any other comments, if you want me to do any other types of videos in my channel, if you loved my Esoteric Alchemy channel, hit a like, subscribe. Let me know what you guys want. Let me know if you have any comments, any questions that I can help you with. And peace out.